Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I hope you're all doing well. I pray that you're all in good health and iman. So in today's video, we will be discussing a really important topic. The topic is medical screening before marriage. We're going to dive deep into this topic and cover everything you need to know, from why testing is important, the different things that you should be testing for before marriage, and even how testing is actually done. I pray that this video is beneficial, inshallah, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. But first, a quick introduction. Welcome to my channel. My name is Zahra, and on this channel and on Instagram, I make content to empower Muslim women through Islam. I tend to focus more on marriage, but I also speak about wifehood, womanhood, and motherhood. I'd love for you to be part of this beautiful sisterhood, so don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and share it with your sisters, inshallah. I also just want to put a disclaimer out there before I start that this is not medical advice. I am not a medical professional. I'm simply sharing knowledge that hopefully will help you make a better informed decision. But feel free to do your own further research and analyze your own personal situation. So, what exactly is medical screening? Medical screening before marriage is when both partners go through a health check before getting married, before the nikah is being performed. These checks are really important for two main reasons. The first reason is that they help to identify any infections that could be transmitted during intimacy. These infections are known as STDs, which means sexually transmitted diseases. The second reason why it's important to go for a medical screening before marriage is because it can help to identify any underlying genetic risks that could affect the future children that the couple may conceive together. As we know, there are certain conditions that are genetic and inherited, which means they can be passed down through the gene pool. So this is something that you can check for as well before marriage. The nikah contract is a contract that makes intimacy permissible. So it's important that the testing is done and the results are received before the nikah is finalized. I recently came across a post on Instagram where a nurse was saying that she treated a newlywed Muslim girl for an STD. I believe the girl was 19 years old, and what had happened is that the girl had got married and contracted the STD from her husband. She had delayed treatment, and by the time she finally found out what the issue was, she was in a lot of pain and the condition had really become severe and she had to be hospitalized for some time. So as an ummah, we have to stop burying our head in the sand about this issue and really address it and speak about it, because it's a reality. So many people are scared to talk about this because they don't want to come off as being, judgmental or accusing their future spouse of having done anything wrong before marriage. But it's particularly important, especially for us women, because the effect of these diseases and the symptoms can be way more severe on women than it can be on men, just because of how the different reproductive systems are set up. And we can have much more severe consequences from an STD. A lot of people don't like the idea of testing before marriage because they see it as if you're accusing the person of having committed zina or having engaged in, impermissible intimate acts before marriage. But that's not the case. This should be something that is standard practice, and I know that in some countries this is actually a requirement before the nikah can be done. So both the man and the woman have to have had their medical screening before the nikah can be done. This is a law in some Muslim countries. Let me know if this is a requirement in your country or if you got tested yourself before marriage. I remember when I was getting married, I had to get tested as well. And when I first heard about it, at first I was like, no, what's the point of getting tested? Like, obviously, I know I don't have anything, but in the end, it's for your own peace of mind and for the peace of mind of your future spouse. So, sisters, if you're getting married soon, do not be afraid to request this and just see the results for yourself. If you feel shy or uncomfortable to ask this, then ask your wali or your mahram to ask the potential future spouse to get tested, inshallah. It's the job of the wali to make sure that you're safe and you're protected and to look out for you during this whole marriage process. Sometimes STDs can be asymptomatic, which means that they show no symptoms in the body. So the person may not even be aware that they have the STD, that they have this infection. They might have forgotten about it, or they might think they don't have it. But it could be that it's not showing any symptoms, but when it's passed on to you, it might show symptoms. There are also cases where a person is actually born with a condition that was passed on from their mother. So it's not always about someone having engaged in zina or premarital affairs. There can be many different reasons why somebody has an STD. Let's talk about some of the STDs that you can test for before marriage. These are recommended things to test for, and it could vary for each individual, and probably depending on which country you're in, there might be more tests that you need to do, but these are definitely some that I recommend to be done. So the first one is chlamydia. This is a really well-known sexually transmitted disease, and if left untreated, it can be really, really severe, particularly on the woman. It can cause a lot of problems. This is definitely something that you want to test for. Then we have gonorrhea, genital herpes, syphilis, and of course HIV/AIDS. And then there's also hepatitis B and hepatitis C. These are all conditions that need to be tested for because they can be transmitted during intimacy. Now, there are some things to test for that are not STDs, but they are inherited genetic conditions. This means that if you and your spouse both carry the gene for this condition, it's likely that you will have a child who will suffer from this genetic illness. So I'm talking about something like sickle cell or beta thalassemia trait. These are two things that are inherited genetically and are usually tested for. Of course, sickle cell trait and beta thalassemia are not STDs. So let's take a look at how the testing is done. So for men, the test is really easy. For men, it tends to be a blood test. So the blood test is to pick up conditions such as AIDS and other conditions, and then a urine sample which will be used to pick up other diseases such as chlamydia and so on. For women, it's also a blood test, and you also need a sample from inside the vaginal canal. So that's how the woman's test is done. In the UK, I know that you can order a kit online and do the testing for yourself at home. I don't know if that's available in other places, but that's a nice private way to do it, particularly for women, so that you can do it yourself and inshallah get that sent in through the post, and then they will message you with the results, which you can then show to your partner. In the UK, it's also free to get this tested at any sexual health clinic or with your GP. Inshallah, it should be quick and easy to get the testing for these. As we said earlier, the consequences of an STD can be much more severe for women than it can be on men. Some of the effects of STDs can be infertility and miscarriage. And if you have chlamydia and you do not get it treated and you get pregnant and you have a baby, this could be passed on to your baby as the baby is exiting the canal, and it can actually lead to blindness if the baby is not treated. So it's a really, really, really serious condition. It's something to be taken so seriously. Please, sisters, do not talk about these topics enough in our communities. And because of this reason, as Muslim women, we are so naive and we are so uneducated when it comes to things of this nature because everyone is too shy to speak about it, okay? So the problem with that is that even if you do get married and you get infected by an STD, you won't even know until it becomes really severe, because you don't know what symptoms to look out for. You don't know what to check for. You might think it's just something to do with the fact that you're newlywed and you're now being intimate. So that's why it's so important to educate our sisters, to educate our daughters about these things. And I just want to mention, I do have an ebook which helps Muslim women to understand a lot of things that they need to know about intimacy before getting married. And the topic of sexually transmitted diseases is definitely one that we cover in this ebook. So we talk about some symptoms and, some of the ways to know that you might have something like this and should get tested. In the book, we also cover so many other things such as hygiene, the female anatomy, and even confidence and femininity. So what happens if you find a brother or you find a sister and you're about to get married, but then the test comes back positive for an STD or any other genetic condition? Well, in that case, it doesn't necessarily have to be a deal breaker. It doesn't necessarily mean that you can't get married, because you might be able to speak to a healthcare professional and find ways to manage this condition, find ways to make sure that it's treated so that it's not able to spread, or to minimize ways of it spreading, inshallah. So if one person tests positive, it's not the end of the world. There are treatment options available, but it's important that both partners are honest and transparent, because in Islam, it's not even allowed to put someone in harm's way. It's not allowed to know that you are infected with something and purposefully get married and infect your partner with this infection. That's haram. That's not allowed. So if you know that you carry something like this, then get the treatment for it and make sure that you're clear of it, or be honest with your spouse and let them know so that they can protect themselves and make an informed decision. I hope that this video was helpful, and may Allah have mercy on all of us and ease all our affairs. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.